all my fantasy football friends. Welcome to the Multiple First Dynasty channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Tony, here with Greg, the Velociraptor. We're here breaking down Week 4 NFL action for your Dynasty fantasy football teams with a nice Superflex intention to it. So, without further ado, how you doing today, Mr. Velociraptor?
I've had better football weeks, Tony. It's been a tough week for Bronco fans. We had some rough injuries during a rough loss to a bitter rival with a hated new head coach over there, Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
So took my beatings as a fan this week. That's how I'm doing. What about yourself? How are you doing?
I'm okay as I can be. I had a positive week across. I think I have 30 cash leagues. I added them up for like 29, but I forget the exact number it was, but I did go positive across all of them. And this is the first week of the season where I had a positive win across. So that feels good.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's feeling great.
I know your leagues. You've got some percentage of your teams, like a third of them, where you're in the first year after a startup, and you're just sitting on a ton of picks, and so you're not expecting to go 500 when you've got a bunch of teams that are taking the year off.
Yeah, 100% correct. I have and I'll put them up on the screen. We don't have to talk about them, but I have a few leagues where like I am trying to like tank and lose, but I'm still winning. Like I have this one league. I'm gonna put it up. But I'm 4-0, and I have 323 first round picks, including the guy who's currently in 12th place. He's 0-4, and I have his first next year. This is the team. It's like Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, Pittman, Kirk, Andrews. I started 4 tight ends this week in this tight end premium league. Andrews, Hockenson, Freiermuth, and Njoku. I started all of them, and I won. But yeah, I'm 4-0, and this is the nut draw I was talking about back in the offseason. Sometimes you can hit on your middle picks and have a lot of futures. Like that's what's going on here, and feels real good when this goes down.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a tough week. For you guys who don't know out there, Greg is he's a Broncos fan, and the Broncos they took a hit. And how you feeling about that, man?
Yeah, it's a pretty rough one for the team. I'm pretty sure we'll get to it soon. How are your Browns doing? How are you feeling after this week in Cleveland?
Just disappointed. Like I definitely feel they lost to a lesser team in the Falcons. Like the Falcons are better than they were projected to be, definitely, and they've kept all their games close. And Mariota's playing way above expectation right now. But like as I've watched all the teams around the league through 4 weeks, there's only like maybe 3 or 4 teams whose offensive lines really like are definitively awesome and dominating games. It's like the Packers, the Eagles, and the Browns. I feel like are really just awesome O lines that run the whole game, and I feel like the team's not leveraging that enough, and it's or not playing to that style more. It's like specifically when they went for it on 4th down in the first half and missed and didn't take the 3 points. Like when you have like all ground and pound, you're just a ground and defense team, and you got to take the points when they're presented. And they didn't do that, and they ultimately lost the game by 3 points. And it was depressing.
Yeah, and the Falcons were missing some pieces with Patterson, and it's the Browns have played well and don't have as much to show for it as you'd hope. But the AFC is crazy this year. There are only 3 teams over 500. There are some crazy number of teams that are 2-2, and 7 teams are going to get into the playoffs. So everybody's kind of in anything can happen mode. Everybody's in it this year. I think there was a thought that the AFC would be so hard for anybody to contend in, but like maybe everybody's going to go 9-8 because there's so many good teams.
Yeah, they're all going to be taking shots at each other and beating each other up. It's going to be like a Royal Rumble type experience. The last man standing is going to have earned it. That's for sure. Versus the NFC is just so shallow. I mean, Packers, Eagles, Buccaneers, 49ers, like Is there anyone else in the NFC worth mentioning? The
I mean, I
Rams.
feel like the Rams are going to get their
You can't ignore
act
them.
together, and I feel like you can't totally ignore the Cowboys
Sure.
with what they've put together with a backup quarterback,
Yeah.
and the starting quarterback is coming back. And I think that's about the end of the conversation.
Yep.
And that's not 7. That's not 7 good teams.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so very, very different scenarios. So some of those NFC teams may end up with a lot of wins, and we know being on the winning side of a game script can be good for a lot of our fantasy assets. So it's something to think about. Yeah, but circling back around to my Broncos,
Denver.
Javonte Williams, heartbreaking. It sounds like, and I'm no doctor, you're no doctor, but it sounds like this is an extremely severe injury. The ACL tear, LCL tear, that's a bad double to begin with, but the PLC, this is a rare injury, but the PLC injury added to those other two makes this a longer recovery.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins, you've noticed, so we're now, 14 months past his injury?
Yes.
And he's finally, next week is the first time you're going to feel good putting him in your lineup.
Yeah.
14 months later. This is a little worse injury than that. So when I'm thinking about Javonte, there's first of all what you do with Javonte, and second of all what you do with the rest of that backfield. With Javonte, I think you're legitimately looking at next Thanksgiving before you won't have any real desire to put him in your lineup.
Yeah.
At the inside. So what are you doing with him, Tony?
What am I doing with Javonte? Putting him in my IR. I will say this: if you're a rebuilder, if you're someone with no aspirations in your league this season, most likely the Javonte owner in your league is someone who was competitive entering the season, or built his team competitively. So if you're not trying to compete this year, it's probably worth poking that guy and saying, hey, what would you let Javonte go for? Because I could see him being an asset for a rebuilder. Maybe you could send I don't know, maybe you could send a Tyler Algier plus something to get Javonte, some upfront piece. I mean, maybe you could swap Melvin Gordon straight across for Javonte right now. I don't know. It's really that's the biggest thing. If you're his owner, is it's really, really hard to pin down his value right now and what he might be worth in a trade. If I'm a competitive team that owns him, I'd be willing to listen to what the other people in my league had to say. I don't know if I'd be actively shopping him, but it's when he returns from the injury, do you expect him to be returned to form? I guess that's the biggest question. Timeline aside, will he produce again at some point?
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Will he ever? Do I think that we are highly likely to get 100% back? I'm kind of at 50-50 on that.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he'll get back to a usable player? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm really worried that this is going to sap most of what's good about him. The other thing is, he's not going to be ready for the beginning of next year, right? This is not a clean ACL 9 months. He's your lead back on opening day, right? So what that means is investing in somebody you feel comfortable putting in as your lead running back for the first 8 to 12 weeks of the season minimum, I think.
Yep.
Which means somebody who is not going to go away when Javonte comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
They're going to bring in someone who's going to permanently permanently command a share of Javonte. This is Melvin Gordon's last year in his contract, I believe.
It's a one. He's on a 1-year
deal.
He's on a 1-year deal. He came back on a 1-year deal. Mike Boone's on a 1-year deal, or the second year of a 2-year deal. All right. So and they just signed Latavius Murray on a 1-year deal. They have no running backs but Javonte going into next season. They are going to draft 1 and sign 2. And like one of those 3 things is going to be an expenditure, like a priority, right? They're just not going to have a choice.
So between Gordon, Murray, and Boone moving forward for the remainder of the 22 season, who do you see as the best fantasy asset out of this backfield?
I think I'm going to be out of step with most people and say it's Murray.
Yep.
I think most people are going to say it's Gordon.
Yeah.
And I do not believe that. I do not believe they're going to consistently give the ball back to Melvin Gordon at this point. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's circle back to Javonte. I just want to say, if you were a Javonte owner, the time to sell Javonte is like February, right? You take the hit now. You cannot sell him now and you're going to pay. You're going to get half of his value back now. But in February, somebody's going to believe that he's going to be healthy on week 1.
He's going to be overdrafted so hard in next year's startup time. Like,
yes,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. And then the time to buy Javonte is like week 3 when he's on the pup.
Mm-hmm. People are losing hope
of like, next year.
I thought this was going to be something. Yeah.
Right.
And he's
right.
not.
Right.
Yeah.
So, or like week 3 when he's on the pup from the owner who didn't sell him and held him. You know what I mean? And at some point because they thought he was going to be back on week 1, right? And so I think there's a cycle to this. And if you actually look at the value charts for Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins, you'll see this. Like the value goes off a cliff, and then it comes back at the beginning of the offseason, in startup season, right? And then it like dips at the beginning of the season a little bit again, right? Yeah. Because they're struggling. But like Javonte's injury was much later in the cycle, and and people just think, oh, he hurt his knee last year, right? But he's behind where those other guys were by months. I really do think this is one to move on from in February if you can, and then come back in when he's showing himself a little bit healthier.
Yep.
Getting back to your question about the guys who were there, I think just about everybody is going to tell you it's Melvin Gordon, and I don't believe that's right.
Yeah.
I think
the fumbles, man. The fumbles are real. That's a problem. When he fumbled, that turnover touchdown fumble it's not good.
10 fumbles in 34 games as a Bronco. He's lost 8 of those, including 3 return for touchdowns in his last 12 games.
Yeah, that's you can't keep that around, man. You can't
but let's keep moving on from that, right? Yeah. Like, what does Nathaniel Hackett know? What is his experience with Melvin Gordon? It's 4 games, 4 fumbles.
Yep.
That's his universe of experience. Like the previous 30 games with 6 fumbles, which is still too many. He wasn't here for. He was here for 4 games, 4 fumbles. Nathaniel Hackett. And then you look at the usage. After Javonte Williams was injured this week, Mike Boone played 15 snaps and Melvin Gordon played 8. So they're telling you that Boone is probably ahead of Gordon. I just think that has to be the presumption, right? Yeah. And then nobody is bringing Latavius Murray in to be your running back 3. He's expensive.
Yeah.
He doesn't play special teams. He is not a satellite back, right? Like he's not young, with multiple years of control. Those are all things they could have done if they had gone and signed like a Tyler Goodson or Tyler Beatty is on the Baltimore practice squad, right? They could have gone and signed a satellite back like Duke Johnson. Yep. Right. They didn't do any of those things. They signed a reliable old guy who plays no special teams, is not a receiving back. but can do volume work uh, and like not lose you games, right? So to me, they are telegraphing that they intend Latavius Murray to be their leading rusher.
Yeah, I think before long, Latavius, probably not week 5, but within the coming weeks, Latavius Murray is the starting, first name for the game tailback for this team.
They play on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I kind of think Mike Boone might start this week. But now here's the other thing, though. In your dynasty leagues, you don't often see like potential starting running backs for the season on your waiver wire, right? So I think even though I don't expect great things from any of these guys, in your deep dynasty fab budget, I'm going pretty heavy, I think, on both of these guys, and maybe splitting it out a little bit.
I'm dropping 25% on Latavius, at least, if not more. Probably more than that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I did though when I did my waivers earlier today.
Exactly, but also I'm not ignoring Mike Boone. Not ignoring Mike Boone.
Same. Yeah.
Right, like these other two guys could play their way off the field or get hurt. They're not young, right? Like, so I think Mike Boone is worth a set. Like you and I like that 0 RB look, right? So this is how you scrape up a running back 2 who is good enough if you're better than the other guy at flex, and you're better at the other guy at tight end, and you're better at the other guy than the other guy at quarterback, and you just find anything at running back 2. This has the potential to be that kind of situation. And like, who knows, if you end up getting goal line work and Russell Wilson starts to cook, maybe there's even more than that. Right. So that to me is my overall assessment of the Javonte situation, both ends of it.
I think you nailed it. I think we beat it up. There was another major injury, another guy going on IR, and that is Cordero Patterson, the 10th round wonder, free agency wonder, whatever you want to call him. But CPAT got hurt, and big beneficiary Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley. Huntley looked good for the carries he got, I thought. I really like Algier also, but Huntley was actually impressive out of nowhere. So, what are your thoughts on this Falcons tailback situation?
Well, so it's the same thing as the Denver situation. I'm kind of avoiding both of these situations in my redraft leagues.
Sure.
Because I don't like any of these guys enough.
Yeah.
Algier I like, but CPAT will be back in 4 weeks. There are better options in a redraft, in 12-team redraft, right? But in your dynasty league, it is so rare to find guys like Caleb Huntley who are available and have a chance to work their way into a decent role. So I think go ahead and roster these guys. Huntley looked good. Algier looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And roster Dameon Williams. Okay, so Dameon Williams is going to be eligible to come back off the IR in a week, and put him out there. Who knows? He might end up getting the starting gig or half the gig, including the passing work. Who knows what it'll end up being?
Yeah.
I like Tyler Algier. You recall we were both pretty high on him during draft season. He was one of our sort of pushed up at the end of the second round, top of the third kind of candidates. And I think he looked good, man. I think he looked like a pro-ready runner. This is what I saw on tape from his BYU work. He just he looks stout.
Oh, yeah.
I have the same advice for him that I have for Dameon Pierce owners, though, which is, hey, use this guy all season and then trade him in February before they draft somebody better.
Yeah, I mean, with Pierce, I really like Pierce a lot. I think he has chops to be a lead back in the NFL. He looked good. That one, I mean, it's about flash plays, right? Like that big breakaway run that Pierce had, that like 70-yard touchdown or whatever. Like that, to me, reminded me of like when Nick Chubb was doing that his rookie season. He finally just took over the lead role and started breaking off long runs for scores, and then began to establish himself.
I mean, he got through there, but like he is not. He does not have a lot of straight line speed. Listen, I like Dameon Pierce quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I just he's a 4th round pick, and they have a lot of draft capital. And I think Michael Carter is a pretty good player. And I just want to keep coming back to that comparison, right? Michael Carter did not have the investment from the franchise, and so when the opportunity came, they just replaced him.
Yeah.
And just play them all season. I know some people are wanting to sell high on these guys now, and I don't hate the idea of letting him play it out all season. I think Algier is going to earn work all year.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Do you think Algier, like over the course of the next few weeks, and looking at the schedule, I don't know if this is possible, but over the next few weeks, like could establish himself as this team's lead back, and then Cordell Patterson, when he returns to the lineup, returns into like more of a utility role that he might be better suited for at this stage in his career.
I mean, I think Cordell Patterson has actually looked really good in the role they've had him in.
No, he's been great as a starter. I just wonder if like Algier. I wonder if Algier can look good enough to take snap share away from Patterson. I guess is the best way to put it.
Share is what I would say. Yeah. Like I think he could look good enough that Williams doesn't get any share back.
Sure.
And then when Patterson comes back, Huntley goes away, and the two of them have a nice 50-50 split.
Yeah.
I could see something like that. And then as the season goes on, he could earn more just by being the young guy. Or, hey, Patterson could get hurt again. So I like that a lot.
So Caleb Huntley and Mike Boone are both on, like, all of my Dynasty wires. Which one are you pursuing more aggressively, Huntley or Boone? Probably Boone, I'm thinking.
Boone. I think Boone has a much better chance to be the season-long starter.
Yeah, and then Latavius above both of them, for sure. Like, significantly above.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What's next on the agenda? We got injury return, Mr. Brian Robinson for the Washington football team, the Commanders, who, he's returning from his off-field injury.
Well, this is going to be a great story when he gets back here. Yeah. Look, I don't get it, but this team hates Antonio Gibson.
I don't know why.
They just, yeah.
All he's done
they
is
hate him
great.
so much. I mean, great may be a little generous, but he's been fine. I mean, they have no love for
rookie, him. RB12 last year. He's been maybe great as a little aggressive, but he's been very good.
And they are not interested.
For some reason, they don't want him around. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's going to be returning kicks at some point. He's going to be returning kicks, and Brian Robinson is going to have the bulk role and the goal line role, and you want that. Listen, if the Brian Robinson owner in your league drafted him low, and then maybe thought they were getting something, and then it didn't quite work out, buy him low if you can. I think, but the other thing is buy J.D. McKissic. I think he's going to have. I think he's going to be the running back 2, not Gibson.
Yeah.
And he's going to have a bigger role with Robinson there than he had with Gibson there.
It's just so hard to think about a healthy Gibson just being just faded out. Like, what? Ron Rivera is an okay coach. Like, are they drunk? I don't get it. Like, the kid's talented. I don't know. Whatever. But it does point to that, what you're saying. All the signs do.
I mean, McKissic got a bunch of extra carries this week.
Yeah.
And has been like a 50% plus snap guy for a couple of weeks, out snapping Antonio Gibson. And in your full PPRs, soft buy J.D. McKissic there. Yeah.
Sure.
I also want to just point out that we were sour on Antonio Gibson as soon as the Commanders started bringing in all of those young running backs for visits in the pre-draft process. So that's just another one. We kind of hit it on Algier, and we kind of hit it on the Commanders do not like Antonio Gibson. move on from Gibson and be interested in whoever they draft.
Casual
So,
victory lap on fade Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
We faded almost every running back, so it's hard to.
Well, but we like that. But we like that. Take whoever he was replaced by.
Yeah.
How about that week by Hockenson?
How about that week by Hockenson? It's a couple different victories he carried me to. I really like T.J. Hockenson. I own a good chunk of him, and boy, he was insane though, man. What was the stat I read? Like the Lions have been in like their combined totals for their first 4 weeks is like the highest ever, like the highest in 50 years or some crazy thing like that.
Yes.
They've just been in an insane number of shootouts. I feel like Jared Goff has actually like leveled up since leaving the Rams, which is insane to think of. But
I agree. I am less and less
man.
Convinced that they're going to replace Jared Goff next year.
Yep. Yep.
I kind of think.
What's his contract situation? Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I'm about to put a Goff's contract up.
I don't know. But yeah, I kind of think that Jared Goff is the kind of, if you could get him at the price of a rental because somebody thinks he's going to be losing his job next year, I'm pretty interested. I think he's playing well enough. And again, we talked about this. The NFC is kind of garbage, right? What they could easily backdoor into, a playoff spot this year, and then and they could also play themselves out of being able to draft a quarterback.
Number 5 QB right now, Jared Goff.
So
that's funny.
His dead money would be $10 million next year. His cap number would be 30. So you save 20 by cutting him.
And his contract's written through 24, so they can just squat on him for as long as they want to. It's a unique situation there. Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of think pretty decent chance Jared Goff is back there. Pretty decent chance that offense clicks enough that they don't end up going and drafting a quarterback. I'm interested in all that. I do think Hockenson, like, man, it's hard when all those mouths, when Swift and Amon-Ra and Chark and JMO come back, right? Like that's the problem with Hockenson. Yes. Is how many points do they have to score to get down to him in that pecking order? Like even if he's 4th after Jameson and St. Brown and Swift out of the backfield, like that's a lot of mouths to feed, man. The fourth target is not usually somebody you want to be thinking of as a premium asset. But he's got so much. You think? Like, I don't hate it. Yeah. I don't hate it. Gosh, could you get into a Kyle Pitts for the right package? I don't know. Just get
Muth and some stuff. I'd be interested in
that. He has more. He has more fantasy points, or he had more fantasy points this week than Pitts has on the season by considerable amount. Yeah. I mean, Zach Wilson talk.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. Boy, what do you do with Zach Wilson, man? What do you do if you're the owner? What do you do if you're someone who has liked him along the way on the outside? Which is where, like, I had a guy in the league. I owned 6 first-round picks in a league in 23, and a dude basically offered me Zach Wilson for like any of them, my choice.
I'd give up the very late one for Zach Wilson.
You think so?
If I had 6 and felt super comfortable, yeah, because
on the screen right now, I have 7. I have 7 23 firsts, and then my quarterbacks right now are Russ and Daniel Jones, and that's it. And I could send pretty much any one of these picks for Zach Wilson if I wanted to.
I mean, I would. I have to look through the league and see how comfortable I am. You might want to wait on that and move it for the lower one when you're more confident who the lowest one is. But like if I could give up the 112 next year for Zach Wilson, I feel like you're unlikely to have a quarterback with his pedigree available to you at 112. How about that?
Sure.
And certainly not one with his pedigree and weapons. Right? Like,
yeah.
Maybe a second rounder who goes to Detroit might have some great weapons, but less pedigree, maybe. But like if it's a high first rounder who goes to Detroit with those weapons, it's going to be a top 5 pick.
That makes sense. I'm about to send an offer right now on your advice. I'm doing it right here.
But I want to be real careful about which pick I send if I've got 6 and he'll take any. That's just the last thing I'm going to say.
Oh, there's a clear favorite, and I have his pick. The guy's huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what did you make of it? So he opened 8 of 24. Yeah. He was 33% passing. Then he finished 10 of 12 to get back to 50% passing for the day. He had a game-winning drive, right? So, like, he won a tough game. He's got a tough schedule ahead. He's got great weapons. I thought he looked really good in the second half. No, I thought he looked really good on the last drive and pretty good in the second half. And, was the first half because is he really a 50% passer, or is he first time back since last year, right? And missed most of the camp. Like I'm not 100% sure how to take all of that. I thought it was a big mixed bag, but I really like his weapons, and the offense flashes with him on the field.
Yeah.
It doesn't always go well.
Yeah.
But it flashes. And so maybe they can get it to where it always goes well. He scored another touchdown also, not a passing. He had a receiving touchdown, but he had like 5 rushing touchdowns last year. So I just think his ability to get in the end zone in other ways is also useful.
Yeah, I imagine he's got a long leash too. Like, it'd be hard for him to lose his job this year. He doesn't really fail, fall flat in his face. As long as he plays at least adequately, he'll be the Jet starter entering next season. But the last 2 drives were great. The rest of the game was sketchy.
At best.
I don't know.
But
jury is out. That's the best way to put it.
Completely. Oh, hey, little side talk there. He really seems to like Corey Davis.
Yeah. Sad.
Which makes I think Corey Davis is a perfectly good receiver. They sign him to come in and be like they kind of did what the Jaguars did with Christian Kirk, right? So they had a young quarterback. They overpaid like one of the better receivers on the free agent market because they needed somebody who knew how to play a little bit. And, I think he became Zach Wilson's security blanket before Elijah Moore broke out.
Yeah.
And then if you recall last year, Elijah Moore broke out while Zach Wilson was injured. And then Elijah Moore got injured right when Zach Wilson was coming back. So they didn't play together a whole bunch. And Garret Wilson is new. So, I think they have 3 good receivers. I think Corey Davis is a solid player. And I love from the perspective of my Garret Wilson and Elijah Moore shares, I wish Corey Davis was pushed out, but I like from the Zach Wilson share perspective that he seems to have 3 receivers he can throw to comfortably who are good players or better. And also Corey Davis is like a low-key rental, I think, with that you might be able to get for like a 4th rounder next year if he happens to be sitting on a non-contenders roster or whatever. That I think is going to have some use later in the season. I'll just throw that out there.
That's good. It's the big takeaway is his supporting cast, offensive line included. The Jets have an up-and-coming O-line. His supporting cast and his draft capital give you confidence. His play doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. The jury is out on the playing. So, if you can buy him cheap now and his play comes through with the supporting cast, the ceiling is very, very high. So.
But the other thing is the play is not always bad, right? Sometimes you have these. It's not. It's there. There are whole drives or whole quarters where you go, oh, I see it, and then there are long stretches where it is awful. Same game. Kenny Pickett talk.
Kenny Pickett, you mean the new starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, first round
I
pick,
love
Kenny
it.
Pickett?
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't watch much of him, like actually see him play. I tried to watch all the highlights and things, and I didn't get to see that. What were your takeaways from Pickett?
I think box score watchers will underrate his performance. So he was 10 of 13 with 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Okay. So none of his balls hit the ground. His 3 interceptions came on a Hail Mary and 2 balls that hit the receivers in the hands.
Yeah.
One of them was a straight hit him in the hands, popped in, and he popped it straight up in the air. Right.
Was that the one to Claypool?
Entirely on the receiver.
Yeah.
The other one, not the best throw, maybe. Not entirely in the basket, like I'm not going to take him totally off the hook, but that's a pretty good mid-game performance with no practice and no prep. It looked like a better offense with him on the field.
Yeah.
You're going to want him in your Superflex. I do think you're going to have opportunities to start him as a quarterback too in your Superflex leagues sooner rather than later. He also is a young quarterback with some excellent weapons. Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. And let's talk about George Pickens. Pickens had his first career 100-yard day.
Love it.
Led the team in targets. He had a 31% target share. His target share has gone up 4 weeks in a row. He looks to me like he's clearly past Chase Claypool on the pecking order, although all 3 receivers play almost every snap.
Yep.
Shout
out to you for turning me on to Pickens. He's I think him and Dobbs are my 2 most owned rookie receivers. They're like tied, where I have like around 30-40% share across all my leagues on both of them. And I would not have been so high on Pickens without you pushing me that way. And he has just been, he's such a dog. That guy's a freak of nature out there, and the sky's the limit for what he can become in that offense, I think. He's very talented football player. He's awesome.
And potentially very quickly. And then I also think, Kenny Pickett has no relationship with Chase Claypool, right? Like, the veteran to veteran, but I think rookie to rookie, they've been together since rookie camp, Pickens and Pickett. So I think there's plenty of reason to think Pickens goes past Claypool right away. I kind of think you can add Pickens in all but your shallowest redrafts.
Yeah. Like 10 teamers could probably leave him on the bench still, or leave him on the wire, but like 12 teamers, do you want to pick him up?
Exactly.
3 wide receiver start leagues, redraft, you probably want. Pickett should probably be rostered.
Are you a little worried about Deontay?
Am I worried about Deontay? That extension gives me confidence for him long term. I'm not worried about him. He is when you look at his targets, 12, 10, 11 targets in the first 3 weeks, he is a designed focal point of the offense. So I would need to see a larger sample size of him not being utilized before I'm worried. So far as I'm concerned, we could call this an outlier game for him, his downtrend. But, I think the best thing for this whole situation, for all the Steelers offense, the whole Steelers, would be, let's just trade Chase Claypool. Can we just do that? Please, let's just trade him for an edge rusher or an offensive lineman or a draft pick. There's several teams that could use Claypool, the obvious Packers, but let's just go ahead and get Claypool out of there. It's best for Claypool. I think it's best for the Steelers. It's best. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm with you, Tony. I have a decent amount of Claypool.
Same.
I like the talent. I like the upside. We've seen crazy plays. He needs a change of scenery. He and Tomlin are clearly on the outs. So now, looking at Kenny Pickett. So we're speaking of Kenny Pickett. We made a trade in our show league team this week where we acquired Kenny Pickett in a big package deal. So I think maybe now is a time to stop down and mention that.
Yep. Our 24/7 365 league, we made this trade I'm putting on the screen right now. We moved Saquon and Miles Sanders, which are basically our 2 only real RB assets that we had. And we're going into a tanking mode, a free fall mode. We acquired Brandon Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell, Kenny Pickett, and a pair of 23 second-round picks. I like this move a lot. I'm very comfortable with it. I like how getting Mitchell and the IR is like keeps our overall points real low, so we can definitely put ourselves in position to get that 101 rookie next year. We only had 2 quarterbacks on the roster in Justin Fields and Josh Allen, so getting that third QB feels way better, especially considering Fields' woes. Brandon Ayuk is a player I've liked for the last 3 years. Saquon feels, you know, it's weird selling him. It feels good to get rid of Sanders because I feel like he's destined for the IR. And Saquon, maybe we could have squeezed a little more value out of this trade, it's a smidge more, but I think this is a quality package we got for those 2 RBs.
I think if we had worked a few more weeks and sold the 2 players separately, it's possible we could have squeezed more value out. But what I actually did was I thought Miles Sanders and Elijah Mitchell, they're pretty close to a wash for a rebuilding
super comparable,
team. Yep. For a rebuilding team. Like, I had them very close together in the preseason. Like, what's the difference between the 2 of them? It's that one of them is on IR right now, but we're not trying to win anyway. Mm-hmm. So Miles Sanders going that way makes a lot of sense. And we can wait 4 more weeks or whatever it is, let Elijah Mitchell come back, show he's healthy, and we can just turn around and trade him at the trade deadline, right? So to me, that's almost a wash. So then what I look at is, are you happy selling Saquon for Kenny Pickett, Brandon Ayuk, and a pair of seconds? That gives us 5 seconds, right?
We have 5 firsts and 4 seconds. We had 9
5 firsts and 4 seconds. Okay. Yeah. And also, if I recall correctly, both of our pre-existing seconds, it's ours and another team's who are both at the bottom of the league. So these, we have 7 top 14, 15 picks as it runs right now.
Yeah, we got and no pressure to take a quarterback. I wanted to touch on that. There are quarterbacks coming out that are going to be great, and I'm sure we'll take 1 or 2 of them. But since we have 3 in Allen, Fields, and Pickett, it's if we wanted to just take 6 tailbacks in a row, we could. We could do that. There's no positional pressure on our draft, which is just a big exhale when you feel that.
Exactly. And so you've got some crucial young assets like Allen and Devonta Smith, Pickens, Dotson, and then adding Ayuk to that, I think, makes a big difference. He is a player I really do also like. And then whatever you get from Mitchell, you put that on top. Pickett, and that gives us a nice stack, long-term stack with Pickens, or if we want to play it that way.
The pick and roll, if you will.
Yeah. A pick 2.
Yes, the pick 2 combo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Pick 2 combo. So that gives us, and that's a safer play than Justin Fields right now. So I think we're probably going to be starting him. But so I think it's a good deal. The other thing is there were not a lot of teams in positions to move first round picks for us.
We already had them all.
We have a bunch of them. Yeah. There's another team that has 2 and doesn't want to deal them. So we have 5 and they have 2, that's 7. There's another team that is a contending team, but they don't have their pick, but they have somebody else's pick. Mm-hmm. And it's real high, so they won't trade it. Right. So now you're down to 3 more that are out there that you can really get at. And so I think we did it really nicely. Pickett is worth a lot in a super flex of this type. The picks are good or solid. And Ayuk is a crucial piece. We need to do good things with Elijah Mitchell later. I think this was a win-win trade, though, too. I think these are 2 outstanding contending assets who just had good weeks. Obviously, they sort of both went up in value this week, and so did Kenny Pickett. So all of that is to the good.
All right.
Moving on, some more quarterback talk. Tua, Teddy, how we feeling?
Yeah, so the Tua situation is super awkward, where does that go? How many weeks does he miss? I don't even know what to project from him. I don't own Tua in a single dynasty league, not one anywhere. Um,
Hmm.
don't know what to do with him. Teddy is someone to definitely get off your wire. He's a proven starter in the league. Or he's had fantasy relevant games in the past.
So my
Yeah,
question is, so let's just say you've got some real problems at quarterback 2 in your Superflex.
sure.
Is Teddy a 1 week Band-Aid? Or is he somebody you're investing in because you think you might get a bunch of starts down the stretch from him?
More towards Band-Aid, I think, right? I have to think Tua is going to come back, at least eventually. And he's
All
been
right.
playing great. 61-point game. Jeez.
All right. Yeah, I mostly agree with that. Although that one game is a lot of his points.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, what's wrong with the Rams?
The problem with the Rams is they only have two pass catchers for the most part. And that's Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. I thought it was a very encapsulating performance when that defensive back, that Tufunga, is that his name? Probably learned his name because he's
Yes.
about to be a beast. Um,
Yes.
he took that pick six to the house, and then the very first play, Stafford comes back out and immediately gets what I think was Allen Robinson's first reception of the game. Was right after that, and that, I mean, there you go. Just that series is encompassing of the problems with the Rams. That is, they cannot utilize their weapons outside of one or two guys, and defenses know it. They can't run the ball very well. Akers has been a ghost. Darrell Henderson has not looked good. Um, yeah, they miss they miss Robert Woods. They miss Van Jefferson. I don't know. Maybe McVay's near the end of his bag of tricks too. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, they miss um, Andrew Whitworth a lot, right?
Yeah.
They are struggling on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, look, they gave $46 million to Allen Robinson, and he is not a good player. He's bad now. He cannot play.
He's bad now.
He was on my sell low last week, and he's lower now than he was then, right? He was my sell low last week. He's worth less than he was then, and he's still a sell low because he's bad. And the other thing is, right? He's been bad for years in Chicago, and for years people were just like, it's because he's in Chicago. Yeah. And so if he's bad now, what people are doing is they're like, oh, let's take all of those years and count them against him out all at once. Right? Mm-hmm. This was one of the reasons I didn't want to own him, right? Because if he doesn't look good, he's going to get his value is going to get really ugly really fast.
He's going to zero pretty quick. Pretty quick. He's not there already. he's just head above water, struggling.
He's a fourth round pick in redrafts who's on the waiver wires now, right? Van Jefferson, guys. Van Jefferson, they need a third target. Matthew Stafford threw 48 times the other day, and 33 of them were to Kupp and Higbee, right? So they need a third target, and that's 19 and 14 targets, right? So if you could get that down to 12 to 14 and 12, that's 8 targets for Van Jefferson, 7-8 targets for Van Jefferson, right there, right? And then you take away a couple of Ben Skoranek targets. There's 10 targets for Van Jefferson to mix with those other two guys and give you that many targets. You don't need to throw them all to two pieces. They desperately need somebody who gets open down the field. Cooper Kupp is a short area player. Tyler Higbee is a short area player. I think Van Jefferson is likely to see really good work later in the season. I also think Odell Beckham might be back here before too long.
I love Van. I'm excited to see his return. The offense is just going to need him. We both like Van a lot, and I have him in several of my IRs. I think he could be someone in the second half of the fantasy season who is a difference maker for your lineup. He's a guy who, if you're about to make a trade with someone and you see they have they have Van Jefferson in their IR, I'd be like, maybe try to get that as a throw-in, because
yes,
his owner may want to just would probably be willing to just let him go, like just verge of cutting him, just because Van's been useless with his
Yeah,
injury. But I think
exactly.
he
You
does
feel
pack
like
a
you're
lot of
getting
upside.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is Stafford? How big a problem is Stafford?
How big a problem is Stafford? I mean, I thought he's been playing. I thought he's been playing the same. He's been the same Matt Stafford. It's game plan. It's protection. It's complete lack of any threat in the tailback. Like Akers and Henderson have both been so bad. Um, I don't think it's Stafford. I think it's everything around him. Unfortunately, it's kind of the same as what it was in Detroit, right? He just hyper targets a couple guys, and the rest of the offense is pretty bad with alongside it.
Is it insane that I want to start Zach Wilson over him in one league?
A little bit. Who's Zach Wilson playing? I don't even know who the Jets have next week. Stafford against Dallas at home. I
I
like
see
that.
Dallas. Dallas is a good defense.
And then you got the Jets against Miami at home. I'd probably still go Stafford there.
I kind of think Miami. I kind of think Miami with Teddy is going to be bad.
Yeah, but their defense is good though, right? Like they just have a good defense. I don't know.
Right.
I might wait. I might give it a week. Wilson scares me a little bit. I want to see a little more
it's
from
interesting.
Wilson. Yeah.
The Dallas defense scares me a little bit.
Sure.
Actually, is what I'm thinking.
All right, another primetime guy that really jumped out at me and I wanted to feature on the show is I don't know if you guys have been watching the Chiefs or watching them Saturday night, or Sunday night, but boy, Isaiah Pacheco looked like a monster. he looks so good just running the ball. I think Chris Collinsworth said, "How did this guy make it to the 7th round?" And I was feeling the exact same way. Pacheco's looking good out there, and he's pushing Clyde for that job, and he's earning more snap share moving forward. I think Pacheco could be someone down the stretch of the fantasy season, maybe even into the playoffs, who could be a monster. And if something were to happen to Clyde, an injury, boy, the Pacheco ceiling is just so high.
Yeah, if not for how good Clyde has actually looked, this would be you'd be all over Pacheco right now.
They're pushing each other.
Clyde actually looked very good.
Yeah.
What did he have? 19 carries for 94 yards this week, and he's
twice.
Been very good. Yeah. Hey, this is another victory lap for us.
Oh yeah, we featured Pacheco in our RB breakdown, like before the draft even. It was good.
Yeah.
And then during draft season, he was like 4th or 5th round flyer. Definitely get that. I have a lot of Pacheco, and I'm very happy about that.
Yep. Hey, let's talk about Mo Alley Cox. This is a guy that you, in particular, were pretty in on in your tight end premium or 2 tight end leagues all off season. His route participation was way up. He was the clear number 1 target this week, and not just in targets, but also in snap percentage, route percentage, over both Kylan Granson and Jelani Woods, all of whom have looked playable at times.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I'm scared. I'm scared to start him, but what's there to be scared of? Because it's just tight end. I mean, you can throw out whoever you want. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is who scores a touchdown, and Cox has as good or better a chance of doing it than any other tight end, because he's a big, gigantic freak out there at 6'5", 267. Yeah, I liked him a lot, and I have a good bit of him, but I was cutting him after a couple weeks because he wasn't doing anything, and I don't know. I feel like I've been waiting for a true Mo Alley Cox breakout for 3 years now.
Well, I just want to. So his snap percentages so far this year: 54, 54, 59, 70.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so then you look at Kylan Granson's snap percentages: 55, 54, 42, 45.
Yeah.
Right. So you maybe it's sorting a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Jelani Wood 9, 16, 23, 23. So maybe it's sorting towards a Mo Alley Cox here. Maybe he's the 2-way player. I actually think he's going to be a really nice plus tight end 2 for most of the season.
Yeah.
In your 2 tight end leagues.
Sure.
And I think you can flex him at times in your in your tight end premiums. Maybe it's one tight end, but full PPR with a tight end premium, you can
throw him out there,
flex him
especially
and
when these
do
buys
okay.
start hitting here in the next few weeks.
So I just want to notice that, like, I don't know if you noticed this, but he's on the waivers in our 24/7 league, so something to think about.
And we got Rick from Schultz this back week, so might be worth grabbing.
Yeah, all right. So that's the one, right. But you don't see players with good route participation and all that stuff available in deep dynasties very often. So that popped for me. Another big injury, not a big name, but a bad, like substantial injury. Jamison Crowder with a broken ankle. So here we've got Isaiah McKenzie, who was getting, let's say, 2/3 of the work. He was like 2/3 of the slot receiver and 3 wide, and Crowder was the other third of that. So now Crowder breaks his ankle. You got Khalil Shakir out here. He got a chance to play in this game because McKenzie left with a concussion. How do you feel about McKenzie? How do you feel about Shakir?
I think Allen trusts McKenzie, and that's worth so much. Anytime you can identify someone in an offense who the elite quarterback trusts, like, oh, Brady trusts this guy, or Rodgers trusts this guy, like, and that's getting to, like, that's immediately an interesting player. Or someone you can identify who you think the coaching staff likes this player. That's what led me to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine the offseason. I mean, he hasn't done anything, but that was one of the reasons I liked him, because it felt like the Titans staff liked him. But the Bills staff likes McKenzie. Allen trusts him, and he's demonstrated some talent on the field. And his route running, he's made a few circus catches, I believe. I feel like that's jumping out of my mind.
Do you believe that he is going to be the full-time starter in 3 wide sets?
Moving forward, yes, without Crowder.
Or do you believe he's going to go to the 2/3, or he's going to keep his 2/3 and Shakir will get Crowder's third? That to me is the question. If the extra Crowder work goes to McKenzie, and at which point I think we really have something, or if it goes to Shakir, in which case it's kind of like where it was.
Yeah, that's going to be fully dependent on, like, how well Shakir plays, right, and how much he does with his time on the field. I think, I don't know. That's tough to say. I think McKenzie can be started in deeper leagues, though.
Yeah. I'm renting McKenzie right now if I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Buy Raheem Mostert, yeah?
No, I refuse. You can't make me. I get it. He's been productive, but, like, you're always waiting for the shoe to drop with him. You're always waiting for him to get hurt. Like, he had 18 carries this past week, 18 touches. Like,
no, I'm kidding. I'm not buying him in my dynasty. Sure. I will say,
in redraft, sure, yeah. Like, pick him up off the wire or something. Yeah.
He might be the sneaky number one. Like, everybody's going to be looking at the Javonte replacements and stuff, and, like, they may be missing this thing because Edmonds keeps scoring touchdowns.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are not aware that, but, like, Raheem Mostert is the starter there.
Yes. And
also because the game was 5 days ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people forget by waiver day when you get a shakeup on the Thursday night game. So, like, have a look at Mostert. Hey, let's talk about J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins. He's one of my most owned tailbacks across all my leagues. I loved him coming out. And I liked him in draft season last couple. We both like him a lot. I did start him in a few spots this week. Anytime I didn't start him in my loaded rosters, but I started him where I was squeezed. I wasn't afraid to throw him out there. But
right,
I thought he looked great. I loved how he was getting involved in the passing game, and I plan on starting him with confidence for the foreseeable future.
Okay, yeah, I feel really good about him too.
Yep.
Okay, so let me. Just to sort of test this out, I've got J.K. Dobbins in one spot where I've got a loaded roster. Okay. So my running back one is Nick Chubb, and I'm running, like, CeeDee Lamb and Chris Godwin in the flexes, full PPR.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I got room for one more running back. That's it. I got Jake. So you can start J.K. Dobbins or Josh Jacobs, who's absolutely blew up last week and has a Kansas City team that can't stop the run next week.
You got to ride Jacobs. You got to be willing to chase those points, I think. It's scary, though.
What, Dobbins? Or so you like Jacobs over Dobbins? What about
I don't know, the
Dameon Harris against the worst run defense in the league in Detroit?
No, I would take because Harris is the only one who's really, I don't know. The other two are splitting carries, but Harris is that's a hard timeshare between Harris and Stevenson. I feel like I definitely think it's Jacobs or Dobbins, and I would roll with Jacobs. I mean, he's after what he just did, it's hard not to. But the at Kansas City versus at home for Dobbins is, kind of a shift. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's
games.
We're in high running back 2 territory. Those are good choices out of running back 2.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So, but we're not starting Dobbins over our running back 1s until we've seen a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Okay.
I actually sold J.K. Dobbins like an hour before kickoff in one of my leagues. I'm like a middle of the pack team that's like super young, and I let Dobbins go to one of the better teams for their 23 first and second both. And I feel good about it. I don't mind that trade at all.
Yeah, no, that seems just fine.
Yeah, I like getting a 1 and a 2. But
yeah, for
see.
Dobbins, yeah,
he's not like a favorite in the league either. He's just he's 2-2 right now.
So you if you get some injury luck, you could end up with a top 5 pick.
Could,
right?
Yeah, I love it. And those are the shots I'm always trying to take too. Yeah,
those like wild cardy teams, but they could go bad, and so they think they're selling you the 9th pick, but it could be better. Like, because they're always thinking, I'm going to be in the 9th pick. I'm not going to be the 5th pick.
Yeah. And the top like 3 or 4 are going to be pretty awesome this upcoming season. They're going to be really good, I think.
All right, we're getting toward the long side. Let's go to some buys and sells.
Buys and sells. This is where I don't have a drop. Yeah. So we like to buy high and sell low here on the MFDF channel, and so what that means is players that we're buying that are trending upwards already, not necessarily buy lows, and players we're selling who are trending down, where just take what you can get and get out. But should I start us off? I can go first here on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to reiterate, a buy high. These are guys who are at or near the peak value they've ever had, and you still want to buy them anyway because you see more upward movement.
Yep.
Give me your buy high, Tony.
My buy high right now was I think one of your sells last week, and I'm buying Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the running back position. He's not at the highest he's ever been, for certain. His initial hype as a rookie was higher than what it is now, but he's trending up, and I'm interested in him. He and Kelsey have been the only truly consistent pieces of this Chiefs offense around Mahomes, and I want it. Give me Clyde. He looks like he's becoming what him and Pacheco are pushing each other. They're both rising, but Clyde looks like he's becoming the player he was drafted to be.
Yeah, I
know you're not as high on him. That's all good.
The usage still, well, like yesterday, it was good, or this weekend it was good.
Yeah.
So, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just like these touchdowns are not going to be this. Are not going to come like this all season.
I don't know,
like,
man. And that's the thing is, I don't know. And
he has 3 touchdown receptions inside the 5-yard line so far this season.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
he could have an outlier number of TDs by the end of the year.
I'm gonna butcher a JJ Zacharyson stat, but he's like the 3rd running back in the last 15 years to have 3 receiving touchdowns inside the 5-yard line in a season. Right, like so, like the 3rd guy to have it in a long time, and he's done it in 4 games. Yeah. Right, so like he is not going to play at 3 receiving touchdowns in 3 tight red zone receiving touchdowns every 4 games for the season. Like can't happen, right? So
this offense
unless he
will keep
all the way
rolling,
holds
though,
off Pacheco, yeah, I think
right?
it
Like
will.
that's
I do think it will. I do think it will. I think the touchdowns will spread, but like I get your bet. I get the bet you are making.
I mean, look at that playoff schedule. Like 16 and 17, Seattle and Denver, Houston week 15. Like
The
I'm cool
one
with
thing
that.
I really really like about buying Clyde
Mhm.
is I don't think his current performance is all the way priced in.
Sure, people are still
So
hesitant. Yeah,
yes, so like maybe people have the same hesitance I do, but more of it, and so buy high actually isn't that high. So I I get believing in Clyde now. I don't mind that. I just it's not quite for me. That one still gives me the willies.
who you buying?
Um, my buy is David Njoku.
David Njoku.
Yeah, I think David Njoku is uh, one of the 6 or so best looking tight ends in the NFL right now, and he is incredibly athletic. His snap percentage is in the 90s. His route participation is really high. He is one of the leading receivers. And the thing about him is he came into the league really young. So even though he's on his second contract, he's only, what is it, 26? He's
Yeah.
surprisingly young for a guy who's made it to his second contract. Um, and yeah, so he's going to get Deshaun Watson back here soon. And Deshaun Watson has thrown to the tight end a decent amount when he was in Houston too, right? So if he's going to be among the team's target leaders and among the team and the among the league's snap leaders at the position, and he's going to get a massive upgraded quarterback right around playoff time. He's rising, but I don't think he's rising fast enough. I don't think
Yeah.
he's rising to top 6 dynasty tight end area, which I think is up, like somewhere around there, somewhere in that range is about where he is. I considered having George Pickens in this slot, but I figured we were going to talk about him a decent bit. I just wanted to throw that name out there. There's a player who is rising on the week, and I might get out in front of further rise by buying.
No, there's
Who's
the tight end landscape is like you can't even guarantee unless you have an elite guy. If you're starting one of the middle of the pack guys, you can't even guarantee your tight end's going to get 3 or more targets. You can't, So
no?
and Njoku should he should get 5, 6, 7 plus targets on a weekly basis. He should. As a Browns fan who watches their games, he's very much a focal point of their offense. Him and Cooper are the 2 primary receiving options for this offense, and that's nothing to say about what may happen with Deshaun. I don't know, but just the way the offense is designed, Njoku should maintain good involvement, and he's athletic enough to do stuff with it. So yeah, I like Njoku a lot there.
Yeah, 22 targets the last 3 weeks. I mean, that's in this tight end landscape, that's super reliable. And it's not like, oh, he got 22 targets. Well, Tyler Conklin had a bunch of targets, but they were throwing 50 times a game, right? And he wasn't getting a huge share of it.
Mm.
And so you figure when they go back to throwing 35 times a game, where his target's going to go? The Browns are not throwing that much,
No.
and Njoku is still getting
Yeah.
7, 8 targets a game. I feel pretty good about that. Okay, who's your sell low? Somebody who's on a downward trajectory.
Selling on the way down. I'm selling a wide receiver. I'm selling a guy who I liked a whole lot 2 years ago, and I am selling Darnell Mooney. The Moon Man can be someone else's problem, so far as I'm concerned. I have this guy rostered in a good chunk of leagues because I did like him for a while on his come up, but yeah, the Bears are pretty gross. They're just a wreck across the board, and I don't see this bright future for Darnell Mooney anymore, unfortunately. And if I could get out, if I could send Darnell Mooney across for someone's 23 second round pick, I'd probably do that. I don't really want Darnell Mooney on my roster anymore.
I love that name, and he had his best week of the season last year. Might give you an opportunity. There's someone in your league who thinks he's right about to do the thing everybody was trading first round picks for him to do, and I really like that name. All right, let's wrap up this segment with my sell low. My sell low is Joe Mixon.
Ooh.
That's
but
a big
Joe
name.
Mixon's still productive. You're selling him?
All right. So don't hear what I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe Mixon's value is less than it was a month ago. Joe Mixon's value is less than it was 3 months ago. I'm not telling you to sell it for less than what he's worth now, less than his current market value, right? I'm telling you, take his current market value, which is less than it was a month ago, and put it in something else right now, because it'll be worth even less in a month. Do not take half of what he's worth on the market now. Do not sell. Do not undersell his current value, right? Mm-hmm. But take the appropriate amount off of his preseason value for his poor performance and sell for that, right? Because it's not looking to me like it's going to get better. His usage is amazing. His usage is so good, and his production is so bad. It looks like they can't run block. And he's getting to that age where you can't wait 18 months for them to get the line right, because he'll be
1,375 touches. That's how many times Joe Mixon has touched the ball in the NFL. By the end of the season, that's going to be over 1,600, assuming he plays all these games. Like, that's the wall, like the brick wall is 1,500. Like, when they start to get to 12, it's like you kind of want out. 1,500's like, no, I don't want this tailback anymore. And, that's the 1,500 touches is like 200,000 miles on your car. It's like, I'm probably thinking about a new car at this point, Yeah, that's
He's averaging 20 and a half carries a game.
Yeah.
He's averaging 2.7 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So he's getting all the touches. There's no small sample size, or he's only getting short yardage. No, he's getting absolute bell cow work. And he's been terrible. He's also he's got 24 targets. He's caught 3/4 of them, but his yards per target is under 5. Right? Like, for the amount of passing game work he is getting, he's doing so little with it. And that first week he had 9 targets, 7 catches. A couple of weeks ago he had 7 targets for 14 yards. Last week he had 4 targets, caught them all, 13 yards. Right, like this, he's doing nothing. He's had a couple of very favorable matchups so far. He's still Joe Mixon. People will give you big value for him. Go pivot into something else now, before people won't give you good value for him, before he becomes Ezekiel Elliott on your roster.
If you're a Mixon owner, what should you be looking to acquire? Like, if you could send him to a contender, if you're like bad and you're not a contender, you could just send Mixon to like a contender for their 23 first. Is that a trade you would be looking to make, or?
I mean, if I was a full rebuilder, I would rather have a contending 23 first than Joe Mixon. Now, If I was a full rebuilder, I would be trying to get more than that, because I think you can get more than that on the market. Yeah. I think you can get, a wide receiver worth a second round pick who is 24 years old and you like for 4 years, right?
Sure.
And that first round pick. Start by asking for that 23 first and the 24 first. And then they're going to say no, and you go back and forth and see what you do. Maybe, all right, 23 first and 24 first, and I'll throw in 24 second.
Yep.
Right?
I like that, yeah.
Let's move around and see what we can do. But if you're a contender too, right? If you're a contender, but your running back room is okay, try to pivot into a wide receiver and a younger one. And maybe give up a few points a game this year. Just a couple. right? But maybe you could, maybe you give up 5 points a game now, but less than that later in the season because you get a young wide receiver who's got a growing role, right? Maybe you can get George Pickens and next year's second round pick, right? Or George, that may not be enough, but George Pickens and Van Jefferson and next year's second round pick, that kind of deal. And all of a sudden, if Mixon continues to struggle a little bit and your guy does well, you could end up scoring just as many points and having picks on top. So to me, his trade calculator value is well down over the last month, and I would take the value that is there right now.
Yep. All right, man. Good points. I love it. We're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for staying the whole time. All my first round picks out there. We just appreciate your support. Give me a like, give me a comment. Let me know, who are you buying? Who are you selling? What are some trades you're making? You can, hit me up in the DMs. I'll talk to you about your trades. You can hit up Greg. That's Velociraptor, and I'm sure he'd love to chat you up. We're both we both love fantasy. We both love helping out the community. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good night, folks.